at 6 o'clock. And if we can, let's see, roll call, please.
Supervisor Hendrickson,
Here.
Supervisor Olson,
Here.
Supervisor Milliburn.
Here.
Supervisor Lucky.
All right. And Alyssa, did you want to do the overview of the 24 budget?
Yeah.
Thank you.
For the overview of the 2024 budget, we ended up going over in some funds, under in other funds, but initially, for our whole budget, we were under budget $374,424. That was due to not starting the Martin Lake project, mainly is why we're under it so much. So that is anticipated to be starting here this summer. So is there any questions on other funds on why and where we ended where we ended? I want to stress that recycling capital, we didn't budget for the building, so that's why that looks a little extreme, but we were also reimbursed that money January 3rd of this year, so this year's going to look completely different from last year. So. Any questions on that?
How much was the deposit in January? For the recycling?
56,000 something. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it's almost about that. Didn't everything go to capital, or do we have another capital? Because it's about 59. I think we got one thing that didn't.
Yeah, everything went to capital.
Yeah.
So, but the reason why it should be 59,606, but we budgeted to spend 10,000. So that's why it's showing that it's over budget 49,000. But that's reimbursable money. That is not levy money. That's not township money. So that'll generally happen, especially with grants, because we can't foresee the grants. Like right now, we're budgeting for 2026. We can't foresee if we're going to be awarded a grant in 2026. So initially, if we get awarded a grant in 2026, we didn't budget to spend that money. So I mean, that's what's going to put us over budget.
When we transferred the money from the road and bridge capital, did we do that this year or did we do it in 24?
We did that this year, or we did that in 24. I'm sorry.
24.
Yep. Yes. So we'll go over that here in a minute.
Then I'll wait.
So for the 2025, moving to the overview of 2025 budget. When the town board presented a levy of $2,150,000 at the annual meeting, it was an increase of 10.3%. And the residents decided to cut that proposed levy. So initially we had to end up cutting $73,250 out of the already budgeted, the already budgeted money that we spent four meetings trying to cut down on. So initially, the cuts happened to come from the general capital, parks capital, senior capital, and recycling capital, along with building capital. I think I might have said that. But no cuts were made to the road and bridge capital due to the engineering fees and the fees associated with Martin Lake Drive and 277th, because those fees are not covered by the LRIP grant. So all those fees have to be covered through the capital. And then also fire capital did not be cut, was not cut because we're in contract to purchase a fire truck. So I mean, that's something that we can't take away. I also have the history of the increases in the tax levy on there all the way back to 2020.
Are those cuts, are they formally recognized?
They have not been, no. Nope, but that's been what our levy is, and there's no way that could have been cut out of operating.
No, I understand. I just
So-
making sure formality wise or something we needed to take action on.
Yep, so after, I think in one of the meetings after the annual meeting, it was decided that capital, because there's no way that we could have cut it out of operating. And the reasons why it came out of those capitals and not road and bridge capital is the township is solely responsible for the infrastructure of roads and public safety. So I mean, the only way I could justify any of that is taking away from what the township is not liable to provide. But if anybody has a different scenario and where they want to take the money, please feel free to let me know.
We took 10 out of general. It roughly changed, if I did these numbers real quick in my head, right? The original proposed amount. So we basically took 80 down. Did I do the math wrong? 10, 20, 70, 80.
Correct. And because I can't justify taking it from, oh, I'm gonna take a little bit from this parks fund and a little bit from that parks fund. All of them got cut, and then what I did with the remainder, I think it was like $2,000 or whatever. I put that into Road and Bridge Capital. Mind you, none of this has been divvied up and none of this has been split yet. So like I said, if anybody else has any other ways or reasonings on how they would like to split that or divide that up.
Not off the top of my head.
But like I said, I can't just say, well, I'm gonna cut everybody's budget, but parks or recycling or senior center. I mean, those are. And it was not a substantial amount of money.
Yeah. All right. Anybody have any other questions on that section?
I'm just a formality of wondering when, if that's something we look at doing going into the year, so then departments know what and where we're at. Like I said, we have to, at the annual meeting, it's set at an amount. We know we have to come back and formalize it, so we know going into the following year. That would only make these budget sessions more real time.
Correct. So initially I have a levy split sheet. Because we're looking at levies. So this is the levy money, cutting the levy money. I'm not stating that they couldn't potentially find grants for anything and use that grant money, but this is just the initial splits of the levy money. Looking at the 2024 levy money that came in, we didn't even receive all of our levy money. So funds were shorted. So I mean, it's not, we can only divvy up what we get.
Yeah, I think that needs to be understood too, that if we don't have paying taxes,
That is correct. Yes.
we don't have the number coming in what we got.
So if you want at the next town board meeting, I can send out where we're at for 2025 levy splits. Totaling our 2,076,000. Or how do you want to go about that?
That might be kind of, so, yeah, good to see
Or
it
just bring it
before
to the next budget meeting?
Oh.
Because we have the next budget meeting
Yeah.
next
next
week.
Wednesday,
Wednesday.
yeah.
I'd bring it to the budget meeting. Yeah.
I'll put what was proposed when it came to the annual meeting, and then the revised. Does that work? So on your third page there, might be your fourth, is where we're, that fund sheet, the projection of where we were going to end. Even with the transfer of the $300,000 into general fund from Road and Bridge. We still ended the year in the general fund negative $47,801. So if you look to our 2025 budgeted expenditures, that is what everybody was budgeted for 2025. You look at our levy amounts, I do have them 2025 levy amounts in here, but I have a better sheet that shows it a little bit more clear. And then the non-levy revenue, so the projected balances at the end of 2025, which we're gonna have to use in order to create our scenarios for the levies. That's where the funds should be ending at the end of 2025. So moving forward, if you're thinking, well, maybe senior center didn't use a lot of their funding and you know, but they increased 5% of their budget, because we know where them percentages come and they lie. So a couple of these accounts, building department doesn't count because that's non-levy money. But like road and bridge, they're gonna come in with quite a chunk into 2025. So hoping that it could help the levy, that obviously we were under budget $300,000. But once again, how many years of not increasing the levy? And now it just, I mean, looking at everybody else increasing their levies, I mean, Anoka County's up there.
Yeah.
So.
Hmm.
Is there any questions on the projected fund balances for 2025?
Anything?
Do we have any in statute, just go over summary for everyone and at least be new, because it is somewhat different when we say building department and when we say building capital. There are actually separate. You could just explain.
Yep, and I have those in the sheets.
You perfect.
Yes, correct. Yep. So when we go through sheet by sheet, it's a lot, but I try to have as much explanation as I can in them because there's a lot of them. So. I think the next sheet here. Some of the factors for 2026, and I'm working on more. Things just keep coming through. We have the Paid Leave Act, which is going to be starting January 1st, 2026. This is a tax that is taxed on payroll. So you'll notice that new lines had to be added into budgeting for the payroll for the Minnesota Paid Leave Act. I think initially they thought it was going to be at like 0.7%. Now they're up to 0.88% and they can go all the way up to 1.2%. More information will be coming down the lines in 2025. But the township, the employee can pay up to half of that percentage. And then the township is liable for it. So like I said, up to, there's going to be a lot of different procedures I'm sure that the state is working through. And we're the 13th state now to offer it. A lot more to come on that, but this is kind of just the gist of it. Looking into the future, we need to budget for it because it's coming down the pipeline. So initially what I did is I did take the, from the webinar that was on the 13th, I did take the 0.88% that's projected to be the percentages for that and calculated them in the budget. Any questions on the Paid Leave Act? Like I said, there's going to be a lot more changes coming down because they're getting it figured out right now. So
So we got sick and safe time.
yep, and this is on top of sick and
Is
safe
on
time.
top of that.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep. So, and it's kind of like when Earn Sick and Safe Time came out, they released it and
Didn't have everything.
didn't have everything
That's the
ironed
thing,
out.
you look here, it just says employees. So do you have to for every single employee, or are they gonna have stipulations on?
And I already clarified that through the Secretary of State and Minnesota, and I said, okay, describe this, because when we went into this Earn Sick and Safe Time, we had firefighters, we had seasonal, we had election judges, and they were covered, and then they come back and say, nope, sorry, they're not covered. So they advised me that if they receive a W-2, everybody has it. So
in government, I mean, because we're not, sometimes supervisors are considered employees, sometimes we're not.
Hmm. You're an elected official, you're not,
Right, so this doesn't go for supervisors, right? Okay.
as of now.
True.
So.
Okay.
Don't hold me to that one. I reached out to Lieutenant Douglas on the policing contracts. And just the anticipated of what we can look forward into budgeting wise, because budgeting for 2026. He advised to potentially 5%. So what I did is I just increased it by 5%. He is checking on other expenses, and I haven't heard back from him yet. So if I do hear something come, whether it's insurance or, equipment that needs to be purchased, that's budgeted out for 2026, I will adjust that budget and bring it back to the board, just because if it's an adjustment, I feel like it's not going to be a small one. So
Mhm. So we're at what annually? We're at 320 or 340 for
Oh,
policing?
we'll get there. Yeah,
Okay.
I think I'm up to 350. So
Including that 5% or before that 5%?
including the
Okay.
Yeah, but that's not including if they budgeted for more body cams, squads, anything else like that. If I'm not mistaken, we just got a new squad this year, or at the end of last year, beginning of this year. Also, the Anoka County Board of Commissioners approved a 16.86% property tax levy increase. So they are quite substantially high for their 2026 levy money. So feel the residents have already been made aware of that increase. So, I mean, we have to prepare for our annual meeting as to how we're going to approach this. So
And I know the governor is trying to propose another 5%
I
on,
know there's
but that may hopefully be voted down. So
there's no way around it. Everything's going up and we can't stop it at this point. So yeah, initially what Anoka County was trying to get to is to having a steady 5.25% increase annually by 2029. So, but the 16.86%, that's a hike. So,
Hurts.
And welcome to Excel sheets. So we have the fire department budget first. I don't know if you want to do line by line or if people went through them and have questions or where we're sitting.
I think last year we went line by line, if I remember right.
Okay. And this year I do have in the top portion, the receipts. Just because for budgeting purposes, I need to look at that too, and I feel like you guys should look at it as well. So, we have non-levy money and we also have levy money. With the non-levy money, we don't try to be too over extravagant on it because it's not promised money. So you could say you got 13,000 and some fire training and education grants from the state. You could potentially only get $5,000. So I mean, it's just what we get reimbursed for versus what's actually eligible out there. I mean, the more we get, the better, but we can't bank on getting more in budget to get more because then if we don't get that money and we still do the trainings, then the levy money is actually covering it. So I mean, that's
And it's split because it's on the state fiscal year.
well, and it's not only state, it's county, it's, we sometimes they're just like, hey, we have this left over. What do you have? So I feel like Linwood's pretty good at coming up with projects for.
is the county January to January or July to July
Fiscal year.
fiscal year?
Fiscal year, January.
Okay.
So, but they
I'm
do
used
their
to,
budgeting.
I'm used to the state.
Yeah. So cities, towns and counties, they all do their budgeting differently.
Okay.
So, yeah. So for the fire department, I threw 400,000 in there because if you go all the way down to the bottom of the yellow page here. For the operating. I have the nifty beginning balance of 2024, projected expenses of 2025, and what they have in there currently for their 2026 budget. So does that make sense? It's feeding down from that top. Or was adding revenue in this a little bit too much?
I don't think it's too much. We've got a lot of stuff to get through as well.
Correct. So currently, the fire department budget came back. And then I had to add the Minnesota paid leave onto it. So they are requesting a budget of $410,530 for 2026 operating. It's a 15% increase from 2025. One of that is something that's new is the $3,600 for the generator maintenance contract. Let's see here. Property taxes are due to increase. I mean, they got us good this year. So we tried to forecast what it was going to be, and it just I think that everybody's property taxes are going to increase. So
I talked to mine last night. Any house under 400,000 is gonna have a minimum $2,500 deductible. From 400 to 600,000 is gonna have a minimum $5,000 deductible, and anything over 600,000 is gonna have a minimum $10,000 deductible.
so they're starting to regulate more, especially with all the natural disasters and everything. I mean, it's getting bad. Same with, I mean, workers' comp too. I mean, the insurance is just, yeah, so we had to move forward with increasing the 2026 budgets on the insurances. Not only the insurances, the gas, the electric, I mean, like I said, everything is increasing, and it's stuff that's out of our control.
So the fire department, they went through all these numbers with you, right?
Not with me, no.
Oh, okay.
But if you look, there's comments in there from fire department. So if you scroll down and you see something that you have an issue with, or that's out of the normal increase of your main 5%. Wages increased. We're at, if I'm not mistaken, we're at max capacity with firefighters at 30 firefighters. Okay, 31 is max, but we have 30 firefighters. So
Where are the Excel saved?
they in your T drive or not?
Didn't see him in the main. Just minutes from, or the packets from this year.
I'll drag one over quick. Yeah, see if you can open that. It's in the T
There it
drive.
is. Yep. Thank you. She just put them in the folder that are,
So yeah, if you
packages on,
want
if you
the
wanted to look
Excel,
at
I
those
don't know,
notes.
sometimes when people click around in the Excel, I'm working in a different one, so.
mess her up, but like she said, you can hover over and you can see her notes.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
But some people prefer PDF, some people prefer paper, some people prefer Excel, so we have all three versions of this.
Where do you get to that, Andy?
In the, if you go to Explorer in the T drive. There should be a TB packets folder.
Which one is it then?
Right here.
That one?
Yep. Oh, I forget your touch screen.
Okay.
You find on PDF or do you want Excel?
I got Excel, it's fine.
Lisa?
That's fine, I think.
Okay. Bob?
I'm all right.
So initially, we have a $20,000 increase on wages for firefighter. And looks like for uniforms, jacket and clothing, there was a $5,000 increase on that. For operating supplies for fire training, they added $2,000 for lumber for building props, educational books, and for lodging, that increased $2,000. Phone communications increased 1,500. Not only more mobile communication technology, the prices are increasing. We've got it, price increases from a security company, phone company, I mean, mobile data companies, I mean, everybody's increasing their prices, so in order to reflect that, I mean, we need to budget for it, so. Radio units was increased 5,000 from last year. Vehicle repairs, maintenance. Increased $7,000. Guess, is there any questions on where? Because here's what we do every year. We go through everybody's budget. We come down to the scenarios and we think, holy buckets, that's not going to work. Then we go back to the drawing board. So fire department proposed their budget, parks proposed their budget, senior center proposed their budget, recycling proposed their budget. I went off from Lieutenant Douglas to propose their budget. We could sit and go line by line and try and knock off 1,000 here, 1,000 there. Like we've done every year. And then it comes down to the scenario meetings of, okay, well, we can't do that. So then it's, okay, well, maybe 5% needs to be taken off of this budget, that budget, or this budget. So are we doing this all wrong is my question.
I think so.
I feel like we're doing this way backwards.
Because when you look at, you have 3-year averages
Mhm.
of actuals in those first 3 columns.
Mhm.
And then you can look and some are pretty consistent. And you have some that ebb and flow. And then like the number that gets put in there doesn't even reflect what the averages were. You know, as I'm toggling through some of these.
Some of them, if you hover over them, there was extraordinary.
There might have been a
Events,
one,
yeah.
yep, and that's the thing, that sometimes you have a one-time thing that you weren't planning for in that year, but that's where it has to hit a budget line item.
Correct.
To be coded correctly. But like, you know, in terms of utilities, I mean, that went down in half now.
For like the medical services, are we reimbursed by insurances at all? Okay.
You said on wages, Andy, what was it?
On what? No, I'm just looking at gas utilities.
Oh, okay. Utilities.
So like that one, which, you know, we probably are seeing the benefits now of the roof being redone. Saving some stuff. It would be 117.
That form, the PDF, if I could, maybe I would like to have that one. Okay,
Every sheet's gonna be a different tab.
yeah,
So you got fire department, this is one we're on now.
Okay.
And then you can move.
okay, thanks.
So did you have a proposal of doing it different this year than last year?
I'm asking for your guys' opinion because it seems we keep spinning circles and then, like I said, until we get to these departments have come to me with their budgets.
Mm-hmm.
I also have the other insight of what our utilities are doing, so I implement that input. So I just question if we just roll all the budgets together and create some scenarios and say, whoa, wait a minute, we can't do that on this budget or that on this budget. Because like I said, we're gonna waste 2 nights going through these sheets. Then I'm gonna kill myself that next day trying to do scenarios. Or we just roll into, here's what all of the departments propose for their budgets.
Yep.
Here's the Excel sheets. If I'll give you all the Excel sheets. You can read through, you can look through. If you have any questions, we can address them
Mm-hmm.
versus going through line by line by line because there's a lot more lines on here.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, last couple of years, it was a long time spent going through them line by line. And only once in a while would we find a supervisor that maybe knew of something that was coming up, that we needed to consider. I think if we can do an overview of each one of your budget things here and see what your total is based on what the different departments came up with, see where we are. I would start with that, I think. What do the rest of you think?
Yeah, right now, just what is the total?
Yeah, let's walk through it that way.
So if you scroll down to each of the bottom of the sheets,
If you go, yeah, if we just go through it and
Yep.
say, okay, yep, fire, okay, fire looks
Mhm.
good. Okay, parks. Okay, parks looks good again, because we don't do anything until the scenarios slap us in the face.
Right.
that's true.
Mhm.
So fire department's increase is 15%. So you want the percentages? Or what do you,
I'm just writing the totals here right now.
total dollar
Mhm.
amounts? Fire capital. They have 200,000 in fire capital. Which you see there is gonna be 100,000 for motor vehicle and then they have 100,000 in the other equipment. Gerald, do you know what that other equipment would be? Are we talking like SCBA's or? Okay. Okay. Be a 50%. So police here. Oh, that's terrible.
Can't do anything about that.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Do a thing about it.
Like I said with Lieutenant Douglas.
Well, there is things we can do, but always choose not to do it.
There is, and if you do look at the call diagrams and the schematics and everything in the hours that we do have the police here, that is when a majority of the calls happen. So I just got the report from 2024. And it the hours that they're here is main time. It's not like when they're not here, we don't have any coverage. I mean, we still have. sheriff's
Always have
office.
coverage.
Correct, absolutely. So
This takes a little longer.
Maybe,
maybe. I
maybe.
mean, like,
because on a Sunday afternoon, I've driven by and there'll be three squads sitting in the fire station talking to each other.
Yeah.
So I think there's
no,
more
they're-
out there
they're
than we
around,
realize.
yeah. It's just.
I just remember when I was growing up where it would always take longer.
Who has police again this year? You have police? Are you alone on it?
Am I what?
Are you the only supervisor assigned to that one?
I think
thought
so.
So with them leaving, we don't have to do building repairs,
I don't know if they're leaving.
electric, gas. Now we don't know if they're leaving?
I don't know if they're leaving.
That's
I
news.
know
It's
lot,
been back and forth. So initially they should have been in that building already. They're not. Something
still here?
happened. Yeah. Mhm.
That building open? I drove by it yesterday. It looks open, but
I don't drive by it, so I don't know.
guess that'd be a good question for them.
Yeah, so I don't know what happened. So
You-
I
are
just
you coming or
know,
going?
first they were going, then they came back and yeah.
so that's,
I'll find that out tomorrow.
Yeah, because initially I contacted them when I did the reports to
Or
Anoka
before
County
our
on
next
the
meeting, if
antenna.
you can do that.
Because I have to report every year on the antenna because we use the SLFRF money from them. And he said, if you're leaving, you can take it. It's a $16,000 antenna.
Mhm.
So they came out and someone came out from Anoka County, made sure that the antenna was working correctly, and he was told the same thing. I was told they were leaving, and now I was told they're staying. So I don't know where we're at on this. But
Oh, we had a new parking spot for that old fire truck too. Wow,
Yeah.
glad we didn't put that over there.
Yeah.
So.
Right, that's wonderful.
So was there anything, because Mike Parker was supposed to be working on this, and I know Pam had talked a little bit about this. Did anybody make any progress with working with police last year? Because they were talking about possibly combining with another municipality to cut our costs down.
No, it went nowhere.
So it was just, we talked at it at a board meeting and it never, okay.
Never went anywhere.
go,
sorry, is that something that because I think it was it East Bethel and Columbus that,
Oak Grove was interested too, but
Yeah.
you gotta go to the ones that are close enough to us to make it worth it. Never go to Oak Grove because they're just too far away, but.
yep. So I think East Bethel might have increased their coverage. So I think there might even be a point where our deputy leaves and goes there. So I mean, there's a lot of working mechanisms.
I
throughout.
know that one day when I went to meet Jack, Columbus was up here, so I can't remember his name, but so he was up here too, so maybe I-
Yeah, they all go around.
Okay.
I do want to stress that senior center is an 11% increase from 2020 5. But the only reasoning for that is it's not levy money, it is activities. So we increase the amount of money she takes in from non-levy. And then we increase the money that we spend on senior activities because there's been boat tours, there's been orchards, and with this, I mean, it's offered to the residents at a low cost to go out in groups and getting them out in the community and stuff, but we take that money in. So the 11% increase on the senior center is not levy money. That's strictly activities. It's paint class every month. I mean, it's money going out, but it's also money coming in.
It's just expenditures.
That is correct. So it's not reflected in levy.
There's a lot of line items for senior center.
Correct, because we have to break out the transportation. Kind of something that's dying. So who's to say that they're you know, that the program's gonna continue. I don't know.
What's the cost of our transportation program? That in here.
Well, $3,910.
Yeah, that's fuel,
That's the
portion
operating.
of the gas, electric from the heated building, repairs, vehicle insurance.
Okay.
And transportation is free for the residents then?
General capital. That next.
So in the general capital is Parks Capital and Senior Center Capital. So we have general, then we have Parks and Senior. So it says general on top of it, but if you look at the line items that are there, that would be Senior Center Capital. She budgeted 5,000. Just because forecasting, putting away for reserves for a stove or, just the equipment.
Mhm.
Yes. Um,
Okay, that's pretty simple.
So Parks had a 4% increase in operating, and then requested 20 grand for capital, as they didn't get capital this year. Initially it was gonna be 10 that they requested this year, but then because they didn't get the 10 this year, they are requesting 20 for 2026. Then Lisa, the green ones are the building department. So the building department, V1, the green one. If you click on the three dots,
Okay,
click on them, keep. There you go. So this fund is non-levy money. This is considered a restricted fund. This is restricted by the state of Minnesota. These funds can only be used for building permit purposes only. Not building a building, but building permitting. The wages that it takes to do inspections, writing the permits, doing all the reports. It is a restricted fund that cannot be used for anything else. So it's not levied for. It's paid for by the permits that do come in. So just so you know, when we move into budgeting further in scenarios, you're gonna see, why does this fund have this and this and this? Well, it's because we can't do anything about it. So we don't levy for it. We do budget for it.
And just be clear, when we say building department, this isn't our
Operating.
building maintenance, so
Correct.
the
This is
physical.
building permits.
Yeah,
Yes. Yep. But then the next one, which is building capital, that is for us. That is for restoring our buildings, building our buildings, repairing them. So I had needed the board's help on this one here. Currently, if we don't put anything in it, the projected balance at the end of 2026 is $172,011.
if we don't put anything in there.
Correct, that is correct.
So what are we planning this year with the 50? Have a shortcut on it.
Senior center bathrooms and floors for the fire department is what I had in here. So budgeted expenditures. You don't have these on yours?
I
sheet?
see him up there now. I
Oh.
was on the total where I just saw
Oh,
the
okay.
disbursement side.
Yep.
I had to scroll back up.
So initially, it was budgeted for disbursements for the senior center bathrooms, thinking that we would get that grant. And now we don't qualify for that grant because we're not solely for senior citizens, and it is also a community center. So that is what ex-nate us from that grant.
I'm gonna save money by tearing the letters off the building.
Almost, yeah. So. But yeah, that was budgeted for expenditures, for 2025.
You know, with insurance skyrocketing, deductibles skyrocketing, pretty soon, this world is gonna have to budget to, instead of making a claim, fixing things yourself. Cause the insurance guy I talked to yesterday, he basically said, if your roof doesn't leak, it's not damaged and we're not covering it. Well, pretty soon, you're just gonna have to put enough money in your checkbook to cover these, cause insurance is gonna do absolutely nothing unless you get hit by a tornado or your house burns down. Insurance is gonna do absolutely zero for you. And every time we buy something, it's just, I mean, our insurance is gonna skyrocket like crazy. So these $170,000 end balances, I mean, you may think, why has it gotta be so high, but if our deductible is gonna be 10 grand, we're gonna be doing a lot of projects without turning it into insurance, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Or you're taking second mortgages out if you need a roof on your house. It's just-
So my question is, do we want to budget any levy money for building capital? And if we are, what would you like to see in there for the scenarios?
I hate to think about the future this much, but I mean, the fire station roof is what, 5 years now? It's 5 years old now? So it's got a 20-year warranty on it, so, I mean, that's gonna be a enormous project. How many buildings do we ever gonna need? I mean, I love the metal roofs, because the metal roofs last 100 times longer, but you just never know. Every time you turn around, I mean, garage doors aren't cheap anymore. Garage doors are 10 grand a piece, it seems like. So I think we gotta keep on putting money in it if we think it's insane. That why we put more money into this? Go to Menards, look at what things cost.
Give me a dollar amount that you'd like to see in the scenarios.
Well, Chief, can you speak to, is the floor still a project at that amount? No. So. But is that the goal then, to still redo the whole floors? So we budgeted for that much in 25,
Mhm.
if it's.
Yeah,
Twice
do it
that.
again in 26,
you're gonna
same
have to
amount,
do it.
It'll be 3 times.
at least the
That's what
same
I'm saying,
amount.
You're chasing something that,
Do we want to put 75,000 in there?
I think I put 50 for sure,
50?
just to cover our butts on everything.
Yeah, oops. Bad finger. That would leave us going into 2026 projection of 223,000.
I'll run with that number and see what you come back on the scenarios with.
Okay. Cemetery. Um, 2024, we had 5,000 levy money. 2025, we didn't have any. Current balance without levy money projected at the end of 2025 is $12,906.
If that's gonna be another future thing, we're gonna have to put a road in that place, or, I don't know,
Well, and there's talk about the development of that other half.
outside, yeah.
Yeah.
I
I'd put a little
mean-
bit in there, maybe 3 grand or something.
That's 3. Like I said, we can always adjust these in the
Oh, yeah.
scenarios. Let's just see
We're
where
gonna.
we're gonna get to versus.
We're going to, we just gotta start somewhere.
Has there been a quote for the road in the cemetery?
Because it wouldn't even be in the 5-year plan, I bet.
So with the cemetery.
Yep.
So our expenses this last year was 4516
Yep, I just corrected that.
to what?
So our total receipts Last year we're 4,516.
Okay,
We were shorted on our levy money.
okay.
They didn't get the full 5.
And we only spent 135.
Yep, for some classified, or I think it was lime, actually.
Yeah, limestone.
Yep, we got some lime.
So how do we charge every time they cut the grass there?
So in the general fund, so this is mainly improvements.
Okay.
This is like big improvements. In the general fund, there is a cemetery category, and
Okay.
that's where the cuttings and stuff come out of.
Does parks come out of the general also? When we mow that grass?
That comes out of Parks budget.
Okay,
Think of this as almost like cemetery. It's capital.
okay.
Think of it this way, when everybody goes into training for clerks, treasurers, for townships, when you get audited, they would prefer that everything operate out of the general fund. Fire, parks, recycling, cemetery. This is just us being a little bit more proactive in order to separate this stuff.
Okay. Got it. Okay.
So thinking 3 grand
But I
proposed.
think.
Okay.
I'm only one.
And if we have to cut something, it'd be something that we can,
That's correct. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, like,
Not if, we will.
oh yeah, it's coming. It's coming, but like I said, instead of sitting here all night nickel and diming, let's
Yeah.
see where we're at. If something,
Like you said, you've spent the last year and a half going through these numbers with a fine tooth comb.
Yeah.
Nobody knows them better than you do. So where you've adjusted them and percentages on utilities and stuff, I can't argue with you. All right, recycling.
yep, recycling had an increase of 15% from 2024 on for their 2026 budget. Their budget increased, but also so did their non-levy revenue. So they are projected to take in 110,000 of non-levy revenue. So through our score grants, it's 52,000 through Noka County, and through all of the other collection fees, and recyclable materials is 58,000. So the budget increased due to, like I said, the garbage bills, unloading the dumpsters, everything else like that. I mean, everything's increasing. The fuel surcharges, all does really good packing everything into one, but trying to get less pickups. But it seems like, especially with their oil, I mean, that increased substantially when Waste Management took over, and now they don't pick up oil. So, I mean, the amount that we get through there, I mean, we're getting pickups very frequently in order to clean out the oil, the antifreeze, the oil filters. So, dump prices increase, well, in return, the non-levy revenue also does increase. So,
Sure.
Does anybody in this recycling world see us taking a downward turn because of what they just built in Forest Lake? Anybody see that in the future or no?
what did they build in Forest Lake?
They spent $20 million on a recycle facility in Forest Lake and they'll take stuff from anywhere, any county around. And they take hazardous material too. I just know, I don't know if that's gonna do to us. I just don't know.
the thing is,
Nobody knows, but
they take it in, yes. And if it does take that stuff away from us, it's problematic material. We charge the residents to take that problematic material because we're charged to dispose of that problematic material. So therefore, if they're going to Forest Lake and bringing their problematic material there, then we're not paying to get rid of it. We're not handling it.
That'll be something to watch over the next year or two, Bob.
I think so.
Yeah.
And we do have the big, huge pile of wood or debris that we have to look at trying to get rid of. And that, because we didn't do that last year or a
Okay.
couple years now.
Yeah, it's because the cost tripled or quadrupled.
So we did do it in 2023. Got quite a few quotes last year. No good. So
Was 2023 the year we had it cleaned out?
Yes.
So that was all taken out.
Correct.
So we didn't grind anything. We got rid of everything. That was 12 grand maybe?
Yeah,
12 grand?
I think so.
22, I think it was all hauled out. You're talking about when they, yeah. Yeah, that was 22, I think. 23 is when we ground it. And then this last year in 24, we didn't do anything with it.
That is correct. For recycling capital. So initially, we normally have 20-ish grand coming from the county for enhancements. And then enhancement grants. And then for levy, Paul and I had discussed requesting 20,000 as tractor or side by side. Or skid loader or whatever, shared portion, road and bridge.
Because we set that out in 23, right? That's what we put in there for 23 was 20 grand. And I thought we, for the
20
last,
grand into recycling capital reserves, that is correct.
okay,
So. So at the end of 2025 with, let's see, nope, that's gotta be a zero. Twenty 24. I'll have to refactor that. It's not.
Okay.
Roughly, I think right now he has 20 grand in there because we did get the reimbursement, but initially we were gonna use recycling capital for the boiler and moving forward with that at the beginning of the year before we got the grant from Anoka County. But then we were able to get that reimbursed. So he does have that money back in there for his yard cart or
okay.
whatever.
Yeah, we were able to forward some dollars prior to the approval of the grant, because that was spent, like you
Yep,
said, in
That,
early.
that is correct. Yep. So, like I said, scenarios, I will get that buttoned up there to talk to itself, at least. 'Cause it's not
Alright.
talking to itself right now.
Yeah, it's, unlike the last 2 years, doing it line item by line item was very confusing. So,
Like I said, I'll get the sheets all put together. I'll put the comments in why it increased to the point where it increased. Like the fire department does a good job of why they're looking at increasing, we want this much here. Well, we're looking to do more in-house training. We're looking for,
Mhm.
purchasing some lumber, doing some, to that aspect of it versus why did that increase $1,000? But
yeah,
currently right now, I think the most I've seen in an operating fund increase is 15%. And the least I've seen is 4%.
Yeah.
I've seen, well, capitals are different because fire department would be at a 50% increase if we levy 200,000, 100 for equipment, 100 for vehicle.
All right, is there anything that anybody can think of that we should be,
That you want me to bring forward
yeah,
to the next
that you
meeting.
want?
I mean, obviously, I'll put some scenarios together. I'll
Yep.
get everybody the sheets in an Excel. If you want,
Which departments are we, that
Mm,
we don't have tonight? Just the general is the only one omitted?
we don't have general and we don't have road and bridge.
Road and Bridge.
Those are the only two, like I said, so I will,
Two cheap ones.
Yeah,
aha. The two that are, yeah, I saved them for last and I shouldn't have saved them for
Yeah, I
last,
would
so.
just smoke us them right away.
Yeah, so I will finish those up. I'll get them all in an Excel sheet. I will get some scenarios built on where we're at that are actively working. So that way we can say, well, that fund's increasing that's extreme, cut that off of that. So, and then
Yep.
at that point, we'll fall back to where we have to make them changes. So,
so next Wednesday is our next budget meeting. We'll have the scenarios to go through, see where we're at there. And then figure out where we think we're gonna have to change the levy then for the next year, and then sew that up on Thursday. Okay,
and then we can pick a scenario to bring to the annual meeting.
Yep.
So,
Okay.
like I said, if you guys have any questions, if you see something that's a red flag, let me know. If it doesn't have an explanation on it. Like I said, I want to be as open as I can, but this is a lot.
Yeah.
So,
I'll tell you, I was impressed last year. That's when you really started getting a handle on it. You know, it took you a little while to adjust to it. I can't tell you how much I appreciate the time that you put into this stuff and the accuracy. So thank you for that, Alyssa. So anything else you guys want to cover while we wrap tonight up? Andy, anything?
No. So you'll send those other two?
yeah, I'm not
General-
done with them yet.
Okay.
I'm still. I got, some sites coming at me that they're increasing. I need to talk to you after this. Some other stuff. So.
Lisa, anything? Bob, you're good? All right, anything from you? All right, well, this was the shortest budget meeting I think we've ever had, so. All right, we will conclude the meeting if I can get a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries at 7:02. This meeting is adjourned.